Beneath this calm, unsuspecting land lies a treasure worth over $8 trillion. Yes, trillion, with a T. That's more than the entire GDP of Japan, and nearly twice the size of the UK's economy, just sitting underground inside Pakistan. It's a mineral jackpot. Copper to power the digital age, gold that fuels financial markets, and lithium, the heartbeat of electric vehicles and smartphones. Every modern warhead, every EV battery, every satellite depends on these resources. And the land it sits beneath starts right here, Islamabad, Pakistan's serene capital. This isn't just Pakistan's lucky break. It could be one of the biggest economic flashpoints in the 21st century. So here's the real mystery. If this land is so rich, why isn't the world mining it? Why is this trillion-dollar treasure still buried, untouched? There's more to this story than just minerals. It's a tale of danger, politics, power plays, and a country at the center of a global tug-of-war. Let's dig in. To understand just how massive this mineral reserve is, we need to head southwest, to the province of Balochistan, and then north to parts of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. These two regions, mostly rural, mountainous, and often overlooked, contain over 80% of Pakistan's mineral wealth. The crown jewel, a place called Reko Diq in Balochistan's Chagai district. Buried beneath its sandy surface is one of the largest undeveloped copper and gold deposits in the world. Let's break it down. 5.6 billion tons of ore. That includes 22 million tons of copper and 13 million ounces of gold. Just the copper alone is worth hundreds of billions of dollars on today's market. And it's not just copper and gold. Pakistan's land is part of the Tethyan Metallogenic Belt, a geological zone that stretches from Eastern Europe through Iran into Pakistan. This belt is known for rare earth elements, lithium, chromite, and more, all of which power everything from missiles to microchips. In the northern mountains of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, geologists have found traces of lithium-rich pegmatites, key to building EVs and energy storage systems. So why does this matter? Because right now, China controls 44% of global copper smelting, 90% of rare earth refining, and dominates global lithium processing. That means whoever taps Pakistan's mineral belt could become a critical player in the world's industrial and military future, and several powers already tried. But here's the twist. Despite these discoveries, almost nothing has been fully developed. Why? That takes us to the next part of the story, and the dangerous forces that have kept this treasure underground. So far, we've talked about a land filled with riches, copper, gold, lithium, just sitting in the ground. But here's the harsh truth. No one's rushing in to dig it up. Why? Because this land is also one of the most dangerous places in the world to invest. Let's start with Balochistan, where most of Pakistan's mineral wealth lies. This region has faced decades of insurgency. Armed separatist groups like the Balochistan Liberation Army, or BLA, have openly declared war on what they see as foreign exploitation of local resources. In their view, the riches under their feet don't belong to the federal government, and certainly not to multinational corporations. They believe the profits should benefit Baloch people, not be siphoned out by outsiders. So they've turned to violence to make that point. In 2023 alone, Pakistan saw 54 terrorist attacks in a single month, and 53 of them happened in Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Foreign workers and infrastructure projects have become prime targets. For example, Chinese engineers working on the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor have been attacked multiple times. One convoy was hit with a suicide bombing. Others faced ambushes in the mountains. This kind of instability has scared off even the most aggressive investors. Take the Tethyan Copper Company, a joint venture between Canadian and Chilean firms. They won rights to explore Reko Diq in the early 2000s, but after years of delays, legal disputes, and security threats, their entire $3.3 billion project collapsed. They pulled out and sued Pakistan for breach of contract. The result? A $6 billion penalty that Pakistan still struggles to pay off. Even companies with billions at their disposal are not ready to lose lives, lawsuits, and cash in such a risky environment. That's why, despite all that underground treasure, the surface tells a different story. One of checkpoints, armed guards, and silence. But even if you had the courage to drill, that's only the beginning of your problems. Because next, we're heading into the infrastructure nightmare that makes extracting these minerals a logistical trap. So, let's say you've somehow managed to secure your mine, protect your workers, and dodge the bullets. Now what? You still have to get the minerals out of the ground, process them, and ship them to global markets. And here's where Pakistan hits another wall, a crumbling wall of missing infrastructure. Let's break it down. First up, power. Mining isn't like building a coffee shop. It's energy intensive on a massive scale, from blasting rock to refining metals. But Pakistan's electricity grid is one of the weakest in the region. That means constant blackouts, load shedding, and an industry that literally has to power its operations with diesel generators, adding to cost and pollution. Now imagine trying to run a multi-billion-dollar copper operation in this environment. But it gets worse. Even if you could extract the minerals, you still need to transport them. Across rugged, mountainous terrain, through regions plagued by militant attacks, and down to the nearest major port. Many of these roads weren't built for heavy trucks. They're narrow, steep, and often washed out by floods or blocked by landslides. One industry insider put it bluntly: every ton of ore feels like it's being moved through a war zone. Now add on the cost of security. Companies like Barrick Gold, who still have a stake in the Reko Diq project, estimate they'll need to spend up to $1 billion per year just to protect operations. Guards, armored convoys, surveillance. That's not a mining budget, that's a private army. And then there's the missing link in processing. Pakistan lacks the large-scale refineries and smelters needed to turn raw minerals into export-ready materials. That means the ore would have to be shipped elsewhere, adding more delay, cost, and risk. So the question isn't just, can you mine it? It's, can you afford to survive mining it? These hidden costs are why even cash-rich companies hesitate, but something is shifting. Because suddenly, a new player is showing interest, not out of generosity, but out of desperation. The next part of our story is about why the United States is now looking at Pakistan, and not with casual curiosity, but with strategic urgency. Now here's where things take a sharp turn. For decades, Pakistan's mineral wealth was ignored by the West. Too risky, too unstable, too remote. But suddenly, the United States is paying attention. Why? Because China controls the supply chain for nearly every mineral that powers the modern world, and the US is starting to panic. Let's look at the numbers. 90% of rare earth minerals used in US defense systems are imported from or processed in China. The US military reportedly holds just a 3-month supply of key minerals for weapons, satellites, and fighter jets. Lithium, the heart of electric vehicle batteries, is seeing demand outpace supply, and the US barely mines any at home. This is no longer just an economic issue, it's a national security crisis. So now, Pakistan's buried treasure is back on the map. Why Pakistan? Because it's sitting on $8 trillion worth of resources, including massive deposits of copper, gold, and lithium, all of which are critical to the Pentagon, Silicon Valley, and Detroit. Suddenly, geology meets geopolitics. During the US-China trade war, supply chains cracked. Then came a desperate idea. What if the US could cut a deal with Pakistan? In 2022, a new arrangement began to take shape. Call it the Minerals for Tariffs swap. Here's how it worked. Pakistan was drowning in $130 billion of debt and facing punishing tariffs on exports to the US. So the deal was simple. The US would lower some trade barriers. In return, Pakistan would open up access to mineral projects. It was transactional, not a partnership of equals. The US didn't offer massive infrastructure funding, like China did. It didn't commit troops or long-term guarantees. But it saw a chance to gain a foothold in a mineral-rich region outside Beijing's orbit, and so began a quiet gold rush, not by cowboys with pickaxes, but by diplomats, lawyers, and Pentagon analysts with spreadsheets and satellite scans. But here's the catch. Once again, the cost of entry was low for America, and high for Pakistan. In the next chapter, we'll uncover the fine print. Who really wins when deals like these are signed? And who shoulders the risk? So a deal was struck. The US got its foot in the door. It secured a 30% stake in Reko Diq, one of the richest untapped copper and gold mines in the world. Several American companies joined joint ventures, eyeing everything from lithium in Gilgit to rare earth elements near Balochistan. On paper, this looked like a win-win, but dig deeper, and you'll see this deal is stacked with strings. To attract foreign investors, Pakistan offered generous incentives. Lower taxes, accelerated permits, even commitments to protect private property in volatile regions. But here's the imbalance. The US came in light, low upfront investment, limited boots on the ground. Meanwhile, Pakistan bears the weight providing security in areas plagued by attacks, building roads and power lines through mountains, managing local resistance and protests. It's kind of like asking someone else to cook the meal, set the table, clean the kitchen, and then letting you eat first. This isn't new. History is full of similar patterns. In the Congo, cobalt riches brought exploitation, not prosperity. In Afghanistan, trillions in minerals never translated to peace or stability. In parts of Latin America, mineral deals ended in lawsuits and environmental disaster. The concern now is this: is Pakistan gaining a partner or surrendering control? Already, local activists and economists are raising red flags. Who decides where mines open? Who ensures environmental standards are met? And if the profits flow outward, does the local population ever benefit? There's also the risk of dependency. Once reliant on foreign firms for extraction, Pakistan may be locked into an economic model that exports raw materials but imports everything else, from smelting to finished goods. It's a future where Pakistan owns the land, but not the outcome. So the question looms: can Pakistan shape these deals on its own terms? Or will it become another case of a resource-rich nation trapped in a resource curse? But just as the US gets comfortable, there's a twist coming, because China still holds a key Pakistan can't ignore. Here's the twist no one can ignore. Even if the US succeeds in pulling minerals out of Pakistan's mountains, even if the security improves, the infrastructure holds, and the investment flows, there's one bottleneck they still can't bypass: China. You see, the fastest, cheapest, and most strategic route to export these minerals is through Gwadar Port, a deep-sea port in southwestern Pakistan, the same Gwadar Port that was built by China and now leased to China for 43 years. That's right, nearly half a century of control. And strategically, it's a gold mine. Gwadar sits near the Strait of Hormuz, a choke point through which 1/5 of the world's oil passes every day. Whoever controls Gwadar controls a front-row seat to global energy flows. Now here's where things get really awkward. If American companies mine copper and lithium in Pakistan, guess who they might need to export it? China. Because Pakistan's road and rail links still lead mostly to Gwadar, and Pakistan doesn't have smelting facilities for most high-grade minerals. But China does. In fact, it controls 44% of the world's copper smelting capacity and dominates lithium processing. So imagine this irony. The US invests billions to reduce dependence on China, only to end up relying on China again to get the minerals out. And China isn't just a neutral bystander here. It's been pouring billions into Pakistan through the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, building roads, railways, and fiber networks that link Gwadar all the way to Xinjiang. Some analysts say this gives Beijing a veto point. If tensions rise, China could restrict port access, delay shipments, or even sway Pakistani policy. In short, China holds the gate to a treasure the US wants to claim. And with US-China tensions heating up, over Taiwan, over AI chips, over military alliances, this single port could become a flashpoint in the global resource war. It's a three-way standoff, and the clock is ticking. So what does all this mean for Pakistan? The country standing between two superpowers? That's where we end, but not with answers. With the most important question yet. So here we are. A land with $8 trillion buried beneath its soil, enough to reshape the economy of an entire region, enough to supply the tech, energy, and defense industries of the 21st century. And yet, it sits mostly untapped. Why? Because this isn't just a mining story. It's a geopolitical chessboard, with every player chasing something bigger than minerals. The US wants independence from China's supply chains to fuel electric vehicles, AI infrastructure, and missile systems. China wants to secure its trade routes and tighten its grip on resource processing. And Pakistan, drowning in debt, struggling with instability, sees a once-in-a-generation chance to turn buried minerals into national survival. But the truth is, no one gets everything they want. The US faces the awkward reality of relying on Chinese ports. China risks its multi-billion-dollar investment if the region destabilizes. And Pakistan, the landowner of all this wealth, must walk the tightrope, trying to protect its sovereignty while keeping the superpowers at the table. History gives us warnings. We've seen how resource-rich countries, from the Congo to Iraq to Afghanistan, have become arenas for outside powers, not winners of their own wealth. Could Pakistan break that pattern? It's possible. But it will take more than minerals. It'll take political stability, infrastructure development, strategic independence. Otherwise, this treasure could become a trap, enriching others, while the people living on it remain poor. So here's the final question. Will Pakistan become a bridge between giants or a battleground beneath them? Only time will tell. If you found this story insightful, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and join us as we uncover the global stories hidden in plain sight. Because sometimes the biggest events in the world start deep beneath the ground.